If you've been frustrated watching certain colleagues zoom ahead while you're thinking, hey, I actually do good work, why am I stuck? Sometimes it's not about doing more work or shouting about it louder. It's about doing the right foundational things consistently so that when these opportunities arise, you're the obvious choice. And sometimes those foundational things are behind the scenes moves that some people overlook themselves. I'm unpacking all of it. Now, by the end of this episode, you'll walk away with a few unsexy but highly effective moves that quietly build career momentum, real examples and data that show why these tactics work, and also I'll share a few myth-busting truths about why hard work alone isn't enough and what to do instead. This episode is for those professionals climbing the ladder in a big corporate tower or hustling in a creative field like film, design, music, you name it. And whatever the arena you're in is, the game changer of career advancement has some universal rules that may surprise you. Cue the music. Hey there, I'm Melody Bose, your host of Jeans with a Blazer, a podcast about rewriting the rules of work and life. Okay, so you've seen the clickbait headlines, 10 hacks that are going to get you promoted in 6 months, or those motivational posters of eagles and mountaintops with like teamwork or whatever. This is not that. And while it's not as sexy as that kind of content, this podcast is all about the real talk. So I'm going to tell it like it is. And it also doesn't have to be a boring conversation either, because promotions typically mean that you're growing in your career, which also means you're getting that coin from a higher salary. So if you apply any of these concepts and it gets you that promotion that you deserve, I hope you comment or send me an email or DM from the Bahamas or wherever you're celebrating your shiny new office to say, yeah, Mel, I did it. Okay, we all win. That's what we're going for. So part of this real talk means taking a look at the total picture. I'm not going to do you dirty by leaving out some of the cold, hard truths because you deserve better than that. Here's the thing. Doing all the right things doesn't always guarantee a promotion or a level up of any kind. Sometimes, unfortunately, the game is just not fair. So let's first bust a few myths and lay out the caveats. Myth number 1, if I work hard and play nice, I'll get promoted. Not always. This is the grown-up version of good things come to those who wait, but in reality, promotions can go to people who may not even be the best person for the job, but they're just more visible and vocal and aligned with people in power. If you're doing great work in the corner, but no one sees it or connects it to broader goals, it might get overlooked. And that's not necessarily a knock on the company or anything, but it just means that if a tree falls in the forest and no one hears it, does it actually fall? Or did it actually fall? It's the same concept. So this is why things like documentation and strategic visibility matter just as much as effort. More on that in a bit. Myth number 2, promotions are always based on merit. Sometimes, and organizations differ, like I said, I don't want to make any blanket statements, but also politics, timing, and personalities can play a role. You might be the most qualified person, but someone else could be better connected, better at quote-unquote playing the game. They might be better at displaying certain skill sets or be better at communicating their value. And at first glance, it might seem as simple as the person that does the best work earns the promotion, but it's not always that black and white, especially if the promotion entails something like a management position and the person happens to be a strong individual contributor and they really shine in that area, or if a person A happened to work on a project where they could demonstrate their leader abilities. You might also have them, but you may not have had the opportunities to show them off. Also, pay attention to the political landscape, who holds influence, who's in your corner, who isn't. Those are all important things to know too. Myth number 3, being helpful means I'll be rewarded. Helpful is great, but helpful without boundaries is a trap. There is such thing as being too good at your job if you get stuck or pigeonholed in there and you can't advance. So if you constantly pick up the slack and say yes to everything and carry invisible labor, you may end up being taken for granted instead of being promoted. This is where it's important to learn the difference between visible value and invisible effort. Also, don't just jump in and help. It's one thing to be a team player and, want to support your coworkers every time you see them if they ask for help. But you can do that strategically and you can help in ways that align with business goals and leadership attention. Myth number 4, my boss knows what I've accomplished. Spoiler, They might, but it's safe to assume that they probably don't. Most managers are juggling a million and one things, 3 crises, and their own inbox is overflowing. Your accomplishments aren't necessarily top of mind unless you put them there. That's not arrogance. That is advocating for yourself. It's like your own career hygiene that you're taking care of. Don't assume that they remember that one time that you saved the Q3 launch, even though it might have been a huge accomplishment for you. There is a way and a time and a place to remind them tactfully and consistently. Also, they may not even know you want a promotion. And that sounds so counterintuitive. You think like everyone wants more opportunities. They want more money, more leadership, more whatever. But if person A seems content with being an individual contributor and doesn't vocalize that they want more responsibility, and person B is just as good as an individual contributor that person A is, but is constantly advocating for themselves that they want more, they could be a more natural choice just by visibility. I'm going to get into all of that, so don't worry. So unsexy move number 1, be consistently reliable. This is the power of just boring old consistency, but it holds more weight than you think. So yes, our first unsexy move is consistency. The thrill of, just being reliable every single day. It's glamorous, I know. Kind of like the oatmeal of career moves. It's not exciting, but it's heart healthy and it keeps you full till lunchtime. I don't know. Anyway, let me explain why this is a big deal. So imagine just for a second that you are a manager. You have 2 team members, Alice and Bob. Alice is sometimes brilliant. One day she comes up with a fantastic idea, or she pulls an all-nighter to meet a deadline in the nick of time. Other times, maybe she's a little scattered. Maybe she misses details or has off days. We all do. Now, Bob, he's maybe not shooting off fireworks in the brainstorm meetings, but Bob will always deliver what he promised on time and at a very solid quality level. He's dependable, he's steady, and when a critical project comes in or things get tough, who do you think the manager trusts instinctively? Bob, the human metronome of reliability. And that trust is gold, it's currency. Being consistent and reliable just builds credibility, and over time, you become that person that bosses and colleagues just know that they can count on. And this plays into your personal brand. This is who you are when you're not in the room. So, with that all being said, guess who gets considered for bigger responsibilities or promotions? It is the one who has demonstrated that they can handle things consistently. In fact, career experts say that consistently delivering high-quality work, meeting or exceeding expectations day after day, is fundamental to being seen as promotion-ready. I mean, a career expert does not have to tell you that for you to know that, but you get the point. It's the baseline that you should have. Now, you can have all of the creative genius in the world, but if you're only spottily effective, management may hesitate to promote you. It's in the patterns that you establish with little things that you do every week, like sending a concise project update or always being prepared in meetings. These just kind of accumulate. They roll into a big picture of you as a reliable leader, and you're meeting the needs of the team and the organization. Okay, here's a real world example. Let's say you're into like food subscription deliveries, right? So you have one where you're like, the food is so good. It's high quality. It's organic. It checks off all the boxes for your dietary needs, and it's made by a Michelin chef. But you have your order scheduled to come every Monday, and sometimes it comes on Wednesdays. Sometimes it doesn't even show up at all, but you get a credit because, that's a nice thing to do. But you're like, okay, like I kind of plan my week around these meals. These are really important to me, but it's not really reliable. Versus a different kind of food subscription service, and the food is okay. But every single week it gets delivered on time, every single time within that 1 hour window that it says it's going to get delivered. And you can just count on it more because that's your livelihood. That's what you need to get through the week. It's your fuel. So even though one food subscription service might be like amazing, the other one that's more reliable, which one would you naturally gravitate towards? Think about that. Consistency doesn't mean being perfect or robotically plodding. No, it's about checking off the boxes of what you can do right. Results are important, but it's also a bigger picture than that, just like in the food subscription example. It's about the tone that you set along with the quality of your work. So back to food subscription. If it means you're scheduled to deliver the design drafts by Friday, you deliver by Friday every single time, unless you're on PTO or you're out sick because mental health. Now, if you're in a creative job, it means that you might consistently put out solid work. Even if one piece doesn't become an overnight viral sensation, your body of work overall is strong. Now, there's no dramatic music for the person who triple checks the budget Excel sheet every month, and they may not be able to say, oh, promote Jamie because they had 48 solid weeks of performance. But they can say, I just feel like I can trust Jamie in this role. People start to relax when you're in charge of something because they know that you'll get it done, and that is the feeling that you want to evoke. Relaxed people are happy people, and happy people tend to reward the source of their happiness, aka you. Be that person. So if you are naturally the steady type, own it. It is a strength. Lean into it and be vocal about it. And if consistency is a struggle, we all have our chaotic days. Know that cultivating it will set you apart way more than you think. And pinpoint the areas where you might have an opportunity to tighten things up and challenge yourself. It could be starting small, like maybe you could send an agenda with every meeting invite to help you organize your thoughts and objectives to communicate them clearly. Or would it be helpful to set aside some time on your calendar for the more weekly mundane tasks that you kind of put off to the side because they're not a high priority in the moment, but they accumulate. Build on that. Unsexy move number 2, document your achievements. Keep a brag sheet. Your future self will thank you. Stay with me here. I promise this one pays dividends, even if it sounds, as exciting as, a root canal. But by documentation, I mean keeping track of your accomplishments, progress, and contributions in an organized way. Some people call it a brag file. You might call it a work journal. I've actually talked about this in previous episodes where I've talked about it, where I personally call it a yay me folder, where I list out my accomplishments, my wins, even emails where colleagues have been singing my praises. File that away. Let's set a scene. It's annual review time. You sit down with your boss and they ask that dreaded question, so tell me, what have you accomplished this year? And your mind you forget you even work here. You've been working really hard for the past 12 months, but now suddenly under pressure, you're maybe recalling 2 or 3 big things. And maybe you might even describe those vaguely because who keeps all of those details in their head? Meanwhile, perhaps your other colleague who is angling for the same promotion comes in with a list. In Q1, I led X project, which increased Y by 20%. In Q2, I saved the team's X amount of hours by implementing a new process that was point A, B, and C. Do you see where I'm going? So if you haven't documented your wins, it's hard to make the case that you deserve to level up. It's not that you didn't achieve as much, you probably did, but you just don't have those receipts. And in the promotion game, receipts matter. Or another scenario that's equally as horrifying. What if your boss doesn't ask you what you accomplished this year? What if you don't have a good program for, annual reviews, or when it's time for promotions, there's no structure around that? That puts you in kind of a terrible spot because you're not set up for success. Well, with your handy-dandy documentation, you can bring it up all on your own bad self. This is also important for 2 reasons. 1, it teaches you to be your own advocate. You cannot expect someone else to speak up for you. It's great if it does happen, but overall, it's just a great idea and an important skill to be in your corner and know how to communicate your value. It's not bragging, it's doing your future self a favor. Think of it that way. Number 2, we all have what's called recency bias, and we remember what happened last week more than last February. So if last February you pulled off a major task, by the next promotion cycle, it's ancient history, unless you documented it and you can bring it to whomever's attention. Now, how do you do this without feeling like you're an arrogant jerk? Think of it as objective data collection on your own career. It's like keeping a personal scoreboard. You don't have to be competitive with anyone else, but what about being competitive with yourself? You're not going around emailing this list to everyone, and please don't. That's unsolicited and that could be bragging. But you're quietly keeping tabs for when it counts. Here's some practical tips. Maybe have a weekly or bi-weekly habit where you jot down things that you accomplished or contributed to. Make sure you know what the situation was, what you did, what you accomplished, and the results if you have them. Percentages and numbers, always great. What if you landed a new client? Note it and the impact. For example, you signed client A and it added $100,000 of revenue to the company. What if you solved a really gnarly coding bug that was slowing the team down? Write that. You fixed an issue 1, 2, 3, and it improved load time by 15%. There's always ways that you can interpret what you did and make it shiny and give it the attention that it deserves. Now, if you're in a creative field, you might note projects completed, positive reviews, social media metrics, for a campaign that you ran, anything that shows value. And don't forget the soft stuff. It's significant. So maybe it's, by soft stuff, I mean not stuff that contributes to the major goals or KPIs, whatever, jargon jar. Maybe you spearheaded a new process where you organized a team workshop or you mentored an intern. We'll get to mentorship next, don't worry. But those count too, and you can often quantify or qualify them. So you trained 5 new hires on workflow, which reduced the ramp-up time by 2 weeks each. Amazing. Now, I get that it feels weird to sit down and toot your own horn on paper, but to that I say, get over it with love. Documenting your achievements is not about ego. We can drop that. It's about self-advocacy. Now, I read an article by a career coach who said this practice is like creating a practical foundation of self-advocacy that no one can take away from you. In other words, it's your factual armor. When the time comes to ask for a promotion or when someone is deciding if you're ready, you have all the facts. They're at your fingertips to show, not just tell, why you're qualified. Also, for my creative folks, documentation might mean keeping a portfolio updated with not just the work, but the context, like why that poster design you made was effective or how your short film got X amount of festival selections. It could mean saving testimonials for happy clients or collaborators. And if you do not capture these details, I promise you they will slip away. There's nothing worse than underselling yourself because you just simply forgot what you did. I've been there looking at a blank self-evaluation form thinking, I was working all year. What did I do again? It's awful. So yes, it's not sexy to spend 10 minutes on a Friday updating a note or a Google Doc or a special notebook with your accomplishments. You might rather, Netflix and forget the week, but this tiny habit accumulates just huge benefits. Next time someone senior to you casually asks, so what have you been working on lately? You won't awkwardly flounder. You'll be able to rattle off a few concrete points because you've written them down somewhere. Trust me, the ability to clearly articulate and value yourself is it is so impressive. And it's a skill, and it is completely within your control to develop it. Just start by writing stuff down. Next is my personal favorite, mentorship. All right. This one is a double whammy because it involves 2 sides of the coin. Being a mentee, which is learning from someone more experienced, and being a mentor, which is guiding someone less experienced. Both can significantly boost your career trajectory, albeit in subtle, long game ways. But first, let's bust a myth. Asking for a mentor or guidance isn't a sign of weakness or lack of talent. Some, see asking for help as just like they're not doing good enough. That's not true. A good mentor can help you navigate the unwritten rules of your industry or company, those really tricky politics that you might not be familiar with yet, or the strategy of how to position yourself for advancement because they have been in your shoes. And they can also introduce you to their network. And that, huge. Sometimes getting promoted or getting a new opportunity is about who knows you and who's willing to vouch for you. This is like a tale as old as time. Like, it's not about what you do or what you know, it's about who you know. And that could not ring more true. And there's data to back this up in a really big way. So get this, employees with mentors were promoted 5 times more often than employees without mentors. And that's from mentoring.com. 5 times. 5. That floored me. Because it's from a study that was looking at career progression, and it shows how mentorship just accelerates advancement. And honestly, it makes sense. With a mentor's help, you're not feeling around in the dark as much. You've got a guide. You've got a little lighthouse to guide you. And beyond the direct help, having a respected person in your corner can make you visible to decision makers. Sometimes mentors can turn into sponsors, like people who actively recommend you for positions. And if a higher up is mentoring you, you can bet that they'll mention your name in the right circles if you're impressing them. Now let's talk about the flip side, being a mentor yourself. This is next level unsexy because at first glance, it's like, wait, taking on extra work of teaching one when I'm already busy, how does that help me? Great question. It helps you because it showcases your leadership skills before you even have a leadership title. It's dressing up for the job you want, not for the job you have, but in a metaphorical sense. Managers and executives pay attention who's helping others, who's stepping up to guide new team members, who shares knowledge. Do you see where this is going here? And that is the makings of a team leader or manager. There's actually a statistic to this too. So one set of data found that those who serve as mentors are 6 times more likely to be promoted compared to those who don't mentor. Why would that be? Probably because if you're mentoring, you're demonstrating a lot of promotable qualities like soft skills, communication, empathy, expertise, initiative, and you're effectively already doing part of a manager's job, which is developing people. So when a manager role opens, guess who looks like a natural fit? The person who's been informally doing it. Unsexy move number 4. This is a big one: emotional regulation, or put simply, keeping it cool. I like to frame this as developing a high emotional intelligence, or EQ, especially the parts about self-control and empathy. Now, emotional intelligence is often talked about in kind of airy terms, but let's get down to earth. Let's get grounded here. At work, this means not flipping out when things go wrong, not snapping at colleagues, even when you're stressed, being able to receive criticism without going into a defensive mode, and generally being the person who stays level-headed, even-keeled, even under pressure. Now, why is this unsexy? Because it's about essentially not doing things. It's not losing your temper. It's not showing panic, not getting drawn into the drama. And when it's working, it's almost invisible. People might not consciously applaud you for it, like, hey, great job for, not yelling during that crisis. No one says that. But they notice it subconsciously. This is contributing back to your personal brand. And the opposite is noticeable too, because the person who's always in freak out mode or who takes everything personally or causes scenes, they tend to get silently sidelined when promotion decisions are made. Even if they hit targets, leaders worry about putting someone volatile in a higher position. Let's back this with some powerful data. Okay, research consistently shows emotional intelligence is a top predictor of professional success. In fact, one widely cited stat is that 90% of top performers have high emotional intelligence, no coincidence, and around 75% of employers say that they're more likely to promote employees with high EQ, 75%. That means 3 out of 4 bosses are actively checking, can this person handle themselves and others well emotionally before giving the nod to a promotion? So if you thought technical skill alone gets you the corner office, think again. Emotional skills count a lot. Now, what does emotional regulation look like in everyday work life, corporate or, creative? It's composed of little habits and reactions. For example, you get a really annoying email from a client or coworker. High EQ move. You don't fire back an immediate angry response. You maybe draft it, take a little walk, take a lap, come back, and then respond diplomatically. Or you pick up the phone and you resolve it calmly. People who do this consistently become seen as mature and in control. Now, next. You're in a meeting and your project is being criticized. High EQ move. You listen without interrupting, you acknowledge the points, and you respond with solutions or explanations instead of getting defensive or visibly upset. Afterwards, you might process your emotions with a trusted friend or journal instead of blowing up in a meeting. And I'm not saying that you should be a robot with no feelings. Channel them appropriately and in healthy ways. Next scenario, crisis hits. The deadline got moved up, or a key team member just quit suddenly, or something's on fire, hopefully metaphorically. Save PDFs, not lives. Anyway, the high IQ person is the one who says, all right, let's take a deep breath. Here's what we need to do. They might even, crack a little joke to ease tension. Then they focus on the action, of course. So they keep team morale from cratering by modeling composure, and these people often become the informal leaders in tough moments, regardless of title. And when you do these things regularly, you build up a reputation that's just cool under pressure. That's a trait strongly associated with leadership. Think about this. Would you follow someone who cracks under stress? Or would you want a leader who, even in the face of chaos, appears to have it together and guides everyone through it? Exactly. Your bosses think the same way. They imagine you in a bigger role. If this person were in charge of 20 people and a big challenge came up, how would they handle it? Give them reasons to think they handle it great. I've seen them handle difficult situations all the time. So if you've been waiting for someone to notice your hard work, consider this your wake-up call. Don't just work harder, work smarter. Start making those unsexy moves part of your rhythm and watch how fast people start seeing you as the obvious choice. You've got everything it takes. Now it's just about showing it in the right ways. So until next time, keep showing up and keep stacking those wins. See you next time. That's a wrap on this episode of Jeans with a Blazer. If today's conversation gave you something to think about, a mindset shift, or just the push you needed, do me a favor. Subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. Leave a review wherever you enjoy your podcasts. It helps more people find it, and it keeps these conversations going. And I love hearing from you. Follow at Jeans with a Blazer and tag me with your biggest takeaways, your latest wins, or just tell me what topics you want to hear about next. See you next time.